Chapter 12. William Randolph's Hearse. The very month of Chaplin's disastrous marriage to Leda Gray, Hollywood was treated to another scorcher. This one was also intimately involved, good old Charlie, with an all-star supporting cast. It would have sold lots of papers. Just one headline appeared: movie producer shot on Hearst yacht. This story in the Los Angeles Times was yanked in later editions. Something was going on. A gigantic cover-up. William Randolph Hearst, lugubrious lord of the press, was the reason. He was so feared that not even rival tabloids would risk an open affront to the redoubtable W.R., although his association with Marion Davies was notorious. At no time were their names linked publicly in the papers. Hearst's $400 million silver mine fortune made money talk on a colossal scale. The Fourth Estate had heard tales of certain newsmen being barred from further employment after displeasing him, even though word of the liaison had reached some of the country's most ruthless yellow sheets. For once, the tabs decided to let a natural pass. Hearst set up Cosmopolitan Productions for the greater glory of Marion Davies, a vanity operation, if ever there was one. His papers and magazines incessantly proclaimed that her greatest miracle the movies had ever seen. A huge Georgian band on the beach at Santa Monica was erected by Willie's wand to house his winsome mistress. Marion's beach house parties were the most extravagant the movie colony had ever seen. The golden people grabbed at the chance of an invitation to the Hearst affairs and gave Marion good marks as a hostess, even if privately they made fun of her attempts at histrionics on the screen. To vary the entertainment, Hearst brought in his 280-foot yacht Oneida, formerly a floating palace for the Kaiser, through the Panama Canal and kept it anchored at San Pedro. Invitations to the intimate festivities on board the barge were even more sought after than those for the spectacular beach house parties. The cream of Hollywood's charmed circle received Hearst's invitation to a cruise of the Oneida scheduled to depart November 15, 1924, for a jaunt to San Diego. The occasion was celebrating the 43rd birthday of Thomas H. Ince, a pioneer producer-director, father of the Western. Hearst was in the midst of negotiations with Ince to use his Culver City studio as a base for Cosmopolitan. Among the 15 guests were several friends of Ince, including his business manager, George H. Thomas, and his mistress, actress Margaret Livingston. Wife Nell would not be there. Other guests included British authoress Eleanor Glynn, actresses Aileen Pringle, Sina Owen, and Juliana Johnston, Dr. Daniel Carson Goodman, production head of Cosmopolitan, Joseph Willicombe, Hearst's chief secretary, Frank Barham, the publisher and wife, Marion's sisters Ethel and Rain, and Marion's niece Peppy. Marion Davies was collected on the set of Xander the Great at United Artists by two other guests, Charlie Chaplin and a Hearst movie columnist from New York, Luella O. Parsons, on her first visit to Hollywood. They all drove down together to San Pedro. The Oneida took to sea with a cargo of celebrities, a jazz band, a stock of vintage champagne, and 27-year-old Marion and 62-year-old Big Daddy as hostess and host. Skipper Hearst set a southern route, passing Catalina and swinging down toward the San Diego and Baja. Tom Ince, the guest of honor, missed the boat. He had to attend the premiere of his latest production, The Mirage, and agreed to take the last train down to San Diego, where he would board the Oneida when it docked. The birthday party on board is said to have been great fun, up to a point. Beyond that point, the Oneida sailed straight into a fog bank of conflicting stories. The official version, as released by Hearst House, couldn't be more simple. Poor Tom Ince glutted himself with rich Hearstian hospitality at his Scorpio birthday party and died of acute indigestion. The first story to appear in the Hearst papers was a preposterous fake. Special car rushes stricken man home from ranch. Ince, with his wife Nell and his two young sons, had been visiting William Randolph Hearst at his upstate ranch for several days previous to the attack. When the illness came upon him suddenly, the film magnate, stricken unconscious, was removed to a special car attended by two specialists and 3 nurses, and hurried back to his canyon home. His wife and sons and his brothers Ralph and John were at his bedside when the end came. Unfortunately for Hearst, witnesses had seen Ince board the yacht at San Diego. Even more regrettable, Kono, Chaplin's secretary, saw a bullet hole in Ince's head as he was carried off the Oneida. Acute indigestion? Hearst kept a diamond-studded revolver. Oh my God. Hearst kept a diamond-studded revolver aboard the yacht for the purposes of a singular entertainment, considered that he was publicly known as an anti-vivisectionist. As John Temple relates, Hearst was an expert shot. It amused him to surprise guests on the Oneida by knocking down a seagull with a quick hip shot. Hearst was also uncommonly jealous of other men's attentions to Marion. Detectives had kept him informed of her dalliance with Chaplin during his absence. Chaplin had been invited so that Hearst could observe his comportment with Marion. Chaplin may have had some qualms about going, but decided to put up a good show. He left his pregnant fiancée, Lida, behind. It is believed that during the birthday party, Hearst noticed that Marion and Charlie had slipped off together and were later discovered by Hearst in flagrante on the lower deck. In her famous stutter, Marion let out a prophetic scream, "Murder!" which brought the other guest running as Hearst ran for his revolver. In the ensuing confusion, Insee, not Chaplin, dropped a bullet in his brain. Insee's funeral was held in Hollywood on November 21st, attended by his family, Marion Davies, Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and Harold Lloyd. Hearst was conspicuously absent. The body was immediately cremated. It is notable that no official inquest into the death of Tom Insee had been held. With the evidence in ashes, Hearst thought that he had the grisly situation well in hand. He hadn't counted on the Hollywood rumor mill. In spite of the fact that everyone on board the Oneida, guests and crew alike, had been sworn to secrecy, persistent rumors linked Insee's death with Hearst. Was this another case of a rich man getting away with murder? In Hollywood, that wouldn't be the first time, sadly. The rumors finally prompted San Diego's district attorney, Chester Kempley, to call for an investigation. Strangely, of all the guests and crew on board the Oneida, only Dr. Daniel Carson Goodman, who was Hearst's employee, was called to testify. This is his story. Oh, I get to do a voice. Well, on Saturday, November 15th, I took the Oneida, which belongs to International Film Corporation, with a party on board to San Diego. Mr. Insee was to have been one of the party. He was unable to leave Saturday, stating that he had to work, but would join us Sunday morning. When he arrived on board, he complained of nothing but being tired. Insee discussed during the day details of his agreement just made with International Film Corporation to produce pictures in combination. Insee seemed well. He ate a hearty dinner, retired early. Next morning, he and I arose early before any of the other guests had returned to Los Angeles. Insee complained that during the night he had an attack of indigestion and still felt bad. On the way to the station, he complained of a pain in the heart. We boarded the train, but at Del Mar, a heart attack came upon him. I thought it best to take him off the train and insist upon his resting in a hotel. I telephoned Mrs. Insee that her husband was not feeling well. I called in a physician and remained myself until the afternoon, when I continued on to Los Angeles. Mr. Insee told me that he had had similar attacks before, but that they had not amounted to anything. Mr. Insee gave no evidence of having any liquor of any kind. My knowledge as a physician enabled me to diagnose the case as one of acute indigestion. Oh boy. Doesn't explain the bullet in the head. The San Diego DA then dismissed the case with these words. Oh, hey, I get to do a different voice. Well, I began this investigation because many rumors brought to my office regarding the case and have considered them until today in order to definitely dispose of them. There will be no further investigation of stories of drinking on board the yacht. If there are to be, then they will have to be in Los Angeles County, where presumably the liquor was secured. People interested in Insee's sudden death have continued to come to me with persistent reports, and in order to satisfy them, I did conduct an investigation. But after questioning the doctor and the nurse who attended Mr. Insee at Del Mar, I am satisfied his death was from ordinary causes. The dismissal left an editorialist of the Long Beach News dissatisfied. Oh, hey, I get to do another voice. At the risk of losing something of a reputation as a prophet, the writer will predict that someday one of the scandal-scented mysteries in filmdom will be cleared up. Motion picture circles have suffered alike from scandal and rumors of scandal. Deaths from violence or mysterious sources have been hinted at but never proved. If there is any foundation for suspicioning that Thomas Insee's death was from anything other than natural causes, an investigation should be made in justice to the public as well as those concerned. If there was any liquor aboard a millionaire's yacht in San Diego Harbor where Insee was taken ill, it should be investigated. A district attorney who passes up the matter because he sees no reason to investigate is the best agent Bolshevists could employ in this country. It was understood that District Attorney Kempley's investigation was to establish that what had actually occurred at the party directly preceding the director's death. The probe halted before any members of the party had been questioned. Some thought it no coincidence that Luella Parsons was awarded a lifetime contract with Hearst soon after this incident, where their syndication expanded. It was rumored that she had seen it all. Luella soon felt obliged to do a little covering up of her own and claimed that she had been in New York at the time. The only inconvenience was that Marion's stand-in, Vera Burnett, clearly recalled seeing Luella with Davies and Chaplin at the studio, ready for departure. Vera valued her job and decided not to insist upon it. The Hearst-Davies diarchy rode out the scandal unscathed, but as D.W. Griffith remarked in later years, quote, all you have to do is make Hearst turn white as a ghost is mention Insee's name. There's plenty wrong there, but Hearst is too big to touch. End quote. It was known throughout the film colony that the mention of Insei's name within Hearst's hearing would nix future invitations to the Santa Monica Beach House or the San Simeon Castle. And there, l'affaire Insei remains today, still shrouded in mystery, still subject to speculation. A perverse footnote concerning Insei became known to the film colony when his widow put his home up for sale after her husband's death. This was the enormous Spanish-style mansion, Dias Doradas, in Benedict Canyon, which Insei had designed himself, a showplace where the Golden people delighted to spend frolicsome weekends. The charmed circle ignored one naughty feature, a secret gallery above the guest rooms provided with concealed peepholes, revealing a fine view of each bed. Some of Hollywood's most celebrated couples had thus repaid their host's bounty by a gracious demonstration of their boudoir techniques. Only peeping Tom Insei had the key to the concealed passageway. Hearst discreetly provided Insei's widow, Nell, with a trust fund. The Depression wiped out the fund, and unfortunately, Nell finished out her days as a taxi driver. And Hearst? Well, the entire affair was reduced to a sardonic joke in the film Colony. The Oneida became known as William Randolph's hearse. That is the end of this chapter.